there's AI, right? Everybody's freaking out about AI. I was freaking out about AI and asking friends like, dude, what are you gonna do? This thing just does the whole thing.
A lot of agencies are opening their AI departments so that they can just do in-house animations and they can cut costs. But again, it will never have that soul, that creative flair that only like an artist can bring to it, right?
When it comes to client work, I always start with a yes. Yes, that's possible. Yes, I could do that. What do you think of this? That's been kind of helping.
Hello everyone, welcome to Prolific Perspectives, brought to you by Prolific Studios. We're all about uplifting the animation community here, from newbies to professionals to known industry names. We want to create a place that discusses all things animation and what it takes to succeed in this industry. So tune in as we chat with animation professionals, share freelancing tips, and hear some awesome stories along the way. So today's guest, we have Nicolas Nami on the podcast. With over 3 decades of experience in the animation industry, he's worked with giant names like Honda, Tesla, and NASDAQ. Nicolas is a multi-talented filmmaker, motion designer, and animator, just to name a few hats that he wears. But what he loves most is mentoring others. So let's dive into his experiences and stories on how he blends tech with creative mentorship for animated success. So thank you very much for joining us, Nicolas. It's a great pleasure to have you on board. Can you just introduce yourself a little bit and just tell the world about yourself?
Hi, Safi. Thank you for having me on your show. Hi, everybody. I'm Nicolas Nami. I'm a motion designer and filmmaker. Overall, somebody who does creative work, and I'm glad to be on the show.
So Nami, can you tell us a little bit about your educational background? Because again, the point of this podcast is to discuss everything animation. So we want to know, because I personally know a lot of people in our studio who don't have an animation background or formal education, but they've just grown up in the environment and they've just worked on their skills by themselves. So what is your background and how did you get into animation?
I started in 9th grade. Oh, wow. I was a nerd since the beginning. I started on a local cable TV show in Washington, D.C. It was Channel 56, I remember. I used a cool machine called Video Toaster 4000. This is beyond dinosaur age.
I remember that.
You remember that? Yeah, it had actually Lightwave 1, and you could do transitions, and it was this was in 1993. I'm 46 now, if you're doing the calculation.
I think got that.
So that's where I started. So before I went to school, I was actually working. I had jobs that were related to my field. I went to George Mason University. There was a great program there, and learned art stuff, drawing, graphic design, art history. That was in Fairfax, Virginia. Loved it. That's how I started. And I was, at the time that I was going to school, I was actually working as well. I was working for a small design shop called ImageWorks Studio. That's where I learned some of the basics, like color, simple design. There was a lot of print back then, so I learned how to work with print and do compositions and stuff like that. Then I moved to LA and I started a small shop in the San Fernando Valley. That's how it began. That's
actually pretty cool. I think it's been part of your life. I wouldn't even say it's a learning thing. It's been part of your life since you're pretty young, since 1993. I think.
Yeah.
So it's pretty unique because the thing is, even people at our studio, I think majority of the people just started doing it when they were really young. And it's not that they trained and then they got into the animation industry like you would with a business or marketing degree. For me, for marketing, it's not I was marketing since the 10th grade. but I it's just like formal education came in, then I just went into the field. So
Yeah.
yeah, so like it's pretty cool the way you have gone about it, because again, as I was saying, most people at our studio, they all like started when they were young. They got inspired by looking at animations over there. I do want to pick up on one point. You mentioned that you learned a lot of your basics at the studio. So like, do you think that was more formative for you, like being like directly working on projects, or was the formal education side?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The best way to learn stuff is actually doing it.
Yeah.
A lot of us learn like that instead of just opening up a manual and start reading the manual. Because like you wanna do something, you wanna create something, and you're looking for a specific thing to create. But along the way, to get there and to learn to achieve that result, you pick up three, four other skills, on the way. So that's how you could grow. That's how you could learn. And working as somebody in a company, you could easily go through those experiences. If you're first starting, I always recommend, hey, if you're not even getting paid, it's okay to be an intern and just go out there and learn. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's actually really good advice as well. I think for people, because a lot of people are really hesitant. Because I do hire a few people in my teams as well. So what I realize is a lot of people are hesitant to actually just jump into it, right? Just go into the deep end. I usually do that with my like team. I like throw them in the deep end. I'm like, figure it out. If you need help, I'm here to help you, and I'll obviously guide you and I'll teach you all these
Yeah.
things. But I feel like sometimes it's just better to just dive in rather than overthink it. So I think in animation specifically, what I've realized working in this field for a few years, it's all about practice and just putting your output there, putting it into the world. Nowadays, it's the internet. Just put your stuff on the internet, get that feedback. I think
Yeah.
that's the most formative. A lot of animators like hold themselves back by not putting that stuff out there, and I think because again, I think the fear of feedback is something that's like like a big thing in this
Oh
industry,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So how do you
Yeah,
get
absolutely. Oh, that's a very good question. I think this is something that all of us deal with every day, because, you know, we put our heart and soul into our work,
Yeah.
and sometimes when the client goes like, yeah, what is this? Scratch all of it. Let's do it from the beginning, right? Um, it, 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 it could be hurtful for us, and I have learned that I should have kind of two type of work. One type is the work that I do for clients, and it's in a group setting, and I'm gonna have work that is just my passion projects. This is my artwork. It's very personal, and these two kind of could feed off of each other, and it just works better that way. And when it comes to criticism, it becomes a lot easier. When you're working in a group setting, working on a project, you shouldn't take it personal. And it has been my solution over the years.
I think I completely agree with you, and it's a pretty cool way to look at it as well, because I think a lot of people start mixing their creatives with their like client work as well. So they feel like if the client doesn't like it, people are like putting down your creative like intent or creative work. But I think it's really important to keep it separate. Your creative work should be completely different, and how you approach things as well. And I think a lot of new people, like newcomers into this world, especially freelancers who don't work with other people that much, they're like more isolated. I feel like they like start mixing those things together.
Yeah, one way that this becomes easier, though, even for advanced artists that they're later on in their career, is that let me put my thoughts together here. So criticism and feeling like vulnerable about, your work being changed, or client is like asking for different kind of stuff that basically it is not your art. You feel like, oh, this is not my art. This doesn't represent me and stuff like that. Well, this is a long journey of actually a lot of us, that we have to deal with it in our career, and that is to sell yourself and represent yourself the right way, that the right kind of people would come to you and ask for the type of work that you do, right? And the best clients that I've ever had were clients that actually went out there and looked for different kind of artists, different kind of people that create different type of work. And they found my work to be the closest to what they want, right? And those were the best projects that I've ever done, and it's all about how you represent yourself. If you don't have the type of work that you like on your demo reel or on your website, you could totally go and do 3-second projects. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, a little bit, because my animation team has been like introducing me to these a lot of these
Yeah.
things. So yeah,
Yeah, 3-second projects are amazing. Like,
Yeah.
if you don't like your demo reel, you could plan to have 10 3-second shots of stuff that you actually like and you want to do, and you could put them back to back and make a new reel. And this has happened to me many, many times. Like, at the end of the year, when I was cutting my demo reel, I was like, oh, I don't think I want to do this kind of stuff next year also. And if I, present myself with that kind of work, I'm going to get more of it, right? So I, did these like 3-second projects. Sometimes it's a mix. I put in 3-second like passion projects in there so I could attract the right people. So it all contributes to all the feedback that you're getting. And that's the solution, actually. It's a long journey that happens, along your career.
Adding on to that, I do want to ask you one thing. So, like, obviously, negative feedback is inevitable, right? There will eventually be a point where you're just going to be like, it's going to happen no matter what industry you're in. I just think in animation, it's just more. It's more upfront. Your clients will clearly say, "Hey, this is not good enough at all." So, how do you, as an animator, what's your perspective on how do you deal with that when the first time you get that big negative feedback? So, how do you get over that slump? How do you get back and mix that creativity with your client work as well? So, like, what's your view on that?
There is a great writer that I've been reading all his books. His name is Jeffrey Gitomer. And he has a book, it's called The Book of Yes, and How to Be a Yes Person,
I've heard the first
So
name.
I try to...
the first book.
How to be a yes person. So immediately, whatever clients ask me, I say yes, right? But if you always say yes, some people get hesitant. They're like, maybe this guy doesn't know what he's doing, right? So you do have to bring up your ideas. You have to say why something should be a certain way also. But when it comes to client work, I always start with a yes. Yes, that's possible. Yes, I could do that. What do you think of this? That's been kind of helping.
So for me personally, like, because I deal with a lot of like agencies, and I work with like a lot of marketing agencies and stuff like that. So I completely agree. I always say yes, we'll get it done. This is how we prefer it should be done, and this is according to our knowledge, our experiences. This is the preferred way. But again, you are the client. We are here to get our work done, right? So we are going to do it to the best of our abilities. And I think there's always a promise that you have to make them, like, hey, we're going to get it done, and you change the stuff behind the scenes that they don't see, and so that you basically just deliver the output that they want, or as close to it as possible. And then you, again, I personally think you just hope for the best sometimes. Even if it's good, sometimes you just cross your fingers and you're like, I hope he really likes this, even though you're really confident in the product. Sometimes we had a pharmaceutical client, one of our, and the video that we did create for him was actually really good. Like, it was using 3D renders. It had like really high texturing. It was really well done work. Our whole team was super confident. Like, we aced it. It's going to be dusted, no revisions.
Yeah.
It's going to be good. And then once we came back, they're like, okay, we need a complete overhaul. They just, when this, even though they approved the storyboards, they still went back and they're like, okay, fine, we need to scrap this. We're going to start from scratch. And then it did hit us, but I think especially for us, like from the agency side and the studio side, we're so used to it. And I think, and what I try to do for my animation team as well as specifically is like, I tell them like, don't take it too hard. This is client work. This is part of the studio journey, especially.
Absolutely.
Things get scrapped in a minute, and we just have to do it. Don't take it personally. Just do that. And then again, separate your artistic integrity. That's what like everyone like holds on to, right? And like you have to sometimes separate it. Obviously, that's you should always keep it along with you, but sometimes you do have to like separate it and just do what the client wants, exactly what he wants.
Absolutely.
And sometimes,
I definitely agree with you.
And sometimes the client doesn't even know what he wants. That's what I realize.
And nothing is perfect, you know. Results could have infinite possibilities, right? One thing that I do though, and I learned it the hard way, you know, when you're a freelancer and you work by yourself, there are a lot of things that you learn the hard way, right? So this is one of them that there has been like so many situations that you come up with a flat rate project and you do the project and you're like so proud of it, just like in your case, you know, you put it in front of the client and the client goes like, oh, this is good, but, and then makes a comment about the first floor of the building. Oh, we got to change the first floor up, right? So that is still cool. The solution that I have found to kind of remedy this, so I wouldn't burn hours, I wouldn't get screwed kind of, you know, over the project and I end up on something that is, let's say, planned for 3 months and ends up 6 months to a year, is that like when I quote stuff, I go like, this project that I'm quoting, based on this kind of work that we have planned on doing on a flat rate, really equals to these many hours of my work, you know? So when I reach those hours, I'm going to tell you, client, that we are going to go over the hours that we planned on in the beginning, you know? So if the client agrees with that, you're safe, you know? And if the client goes like, okay, change the first floor of the building, you know, that's fine. Let's do it. So that has been my remedy.
So how, like, just, this is going to be a little bit, I guess, a little bit personal question, but like, how overall, how would you like, what's the like worst kind of client that you've ever dealt with? Obviously no names, but like, how bad has it gone? That's, I think a lot of people really want to see. I want to actually share this with viewers as well, the highs and the lows.
That's a hard question, you know. You don't know whether to answer it the political way or just like, you know, spill it. I would say whoever hires me, I appreciate that you have picked me, right? So I really like every single client that ever came to me and asked me to work, you know. I'm super appreciative of it. But the worst client is the client that doesn't know you, doesn't know what kind of work you do, and they're just looking for a general, let's say, motion designer. I am looking for a motion designer, right? They're not looking for you really, right? So I've had a lot of clients like that they come and ask for somebody else's touch, somebody else's result. And to me, all of those have been disaster because that's not me. I can't create like what you guys could make, right? Yeah, if I get into your team,
Then you learn.
we could make kind of that kind of work, right? But yeah, it's been a lot of that, a lot of projects that, as I have mentioned before, we were planning on getting it done for in 3 months, and all of a sudden, it's been 6 months that I'm working on it, and it just messes up all the calculations. Oh yeah, happens all the time.
Yeah, I do want to touch on one thing that you mentioned is basically your artistic style,
Yeah,
basically. So how would you
yeah,
describe your artistic style? And like what major
yeah.
influences have you had in your life that basically brought you to a place where
hmm
you're at right now?
Yeah, I have two kinds of styles. One that I do for um, clients
Yep.
is more corporate. It's very simple.
Yep.
It doesn't have crazy funky stuff, and it's been safe and it's been working, and I've been getting approvals all the time. And there is my personal artwork. My personal artwork has been kind of about my background. It's kind of political. It's about freedom. It's about choices and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff that I do. So let's say bipolar when it comes to
I understand.
results and styles. Yeah.
Yeah, so like I had some person joined our frame by frame animation team. So like he personally he was like he loved doing sci-fi stuff, right? So like and that was his style. It
Yeah.
was like art deco and just hard sci-fi. He just loved doing those things. It was very hard for him to adjust doing just client work because again that's just like okay, turn your creative mind off for that part and your personal
Yeah.
preferences off, and it becomes
Yeah.
really hard for people actually to just turn that one side of the
Yes.
brain off. So is there again, this is touching back on this stuff that we did talk about a little bit earlier, but is there something that you do, or is it is it just years of experience? What do you think is like helps you get to that point where you can just turn that left side off and just work on the right side?
Social media.
Social
You
media.
know, this is like one of the places that could actually help. So on social media, I do this stuff that I like on my personal account.
Yeah.
I go and create exactly that. I follow the current news of what's happening. I create art. I put it out there, right? So that way I get satisfied with that side of my brain, kind of like your buddy that does, sci-fi. But during the day, I'm working on a project with a team. There are different goals, different things we want to do. So I that's been helping me a lot. So power of social media actually helps here. You could get your work out there and be really satisfied mentally with your artistic side.
I,
One thing that I recommend every artist to do is read this one book by Julia Cameron. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's
yeah.
called The Artist Way.
Okay.
It's called The Artist Way. It's basically a workbook that kind of helps you balance things out, and that's a whole other show. So do that.
Perfect. I think that's awesome advice. I do want to touch up on the specific one of your projects, and again, do let me know if it's fine for us to intercut this video with some of your artwork, if that's fine with you.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, anything that you could find on my site, we could share it. Yeah.
Perfect. So I wanted to talk a little bit about because I think a lot of viewers will also be interested in the footage the video that you made for the 510 speed stream. So like how I just wanted to dive a little bit into the project before we move into something else.
Yeah.
So like how did you ensure the animation was like accurately represented the Porsche 911 GT like and like its dynamic features? Was that just like okay, I just have to follow the specific specs, or and how did you just go about this project, and how did you like just go about delivering this project?
With that project, I actually tap in to my own artistic side and what I think is cool, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times we could, do designs, do projects for years and kind of forget what we consider ourselves that is cool, right? What looks cool, let's do that, right? So with that project, I had the freedom to do that. And it was a close friend of mine that was starting this business. And we were like, dude, let's make some cool stuff. Let's bring a Porsche. I mean, this guy had an extensive background in race cars and how telemetry works with race cars. And he had like a engineer mind to tell me what's going on with certain settings, with the tires, with the brakes and all that. So I was like, I had my own mind of how a race car works, based on the movies that I've seen and the cars that I've seen. So I kind of blended those two. A lot of the pieces in that commercial and the entire campaign is 3D. It's all 3D models. Even his the representations of his products, they're all CAD files that I brought into Cinema 4D and textured them and did lighting, and it turned out pretty good. That client is actually a startup, and he is getting backing, and hopefully he'll be very successful. So
Hopefully.
thank you for checking that out, by the way.
No, that was really caught my attention, and you've been in contact with one of our branding managers as well, David. So he also first thing he showed me was you got to check this out. So I was just when I saw it, I was like, oh, it looks pretty cool, and it's pretty. Again, I think just the lighting of it all, it was close to real, hyper realistic, but also it had that creative element to it as well, which is making everything pop. So I really like that personally, and I am a little bit of a car guy as well. So I just think just really,
I love cars.
My goal is to get a Porsche in the next few years. So we'll be working towards it.
That project was fun. I had to kind of get a Porsche and kind of do all the stickers and stuff like that on the car, do the UV wrapping, and the rendering was done in Octane render that I actually rendered locally between the two machines that I have in my office. Yeah, that was a fun project.
So this was a solo project of yours, or did you have other team members?
It was a solo project. We hired a voiceover guy to do the voiceover. Once you have that, you kind of have the whole thing laid out. You're like, let's put this visual for this part of the voiceover, and you just go on from there.
All right, that perfect. I do want to jump on basically how you look at the industry and how the industry has impacted you as well over the last few years, because as everyone knows, we went through world-changing historic event, and that completely changed industries, especially for my specialty is marketing, and marketing has completely changed, right? Everyone went from specific social media platforms to now TikTok. Over the last 2 years, it's completely changed the game, how you have to approach things. So I do want to say how do you stay connected with the animation community in specific, and how do you how do you get the feel okay, this is trending, this is what I'm supposed to start leaning into, this kind of art style has taken the last 2 years, 3 years maybe. So how do you stay in touch as an person with so much experience? How have you seen over the last 1 or 2 decades? How has that changed, and where do you think the industry is at right now?
Well, it has changed completely. A lot of the things that we grew up with, we got to scratch all of it. And I mean, all of it, right? The way it worked, the studios, the freelancers, the advertising agencies, we got to, everything has changed. And I think I am at a point that I'm getting a good grasp of what's happening and where to take my business and my work. there's AI, right? Everybody's freaking out about AI. I was freaking out about AI and asking friends like, dude, what are you gonna do? This thing just does the whole
Yeah.
thing, you know? What are we gonna do, you know? Well, first of all, with AI, as these are just tools. Don't
Absolutely.
freak out that there are new tools out there. You should be happy. Just erase the name AI that is actually that they use it the wrong way a lot of times. And think of it as the new cool tools that could help you create projects and create artwork that is not for just like specific type of audience. Now everybody needs work.
Yep.
Every business in the world needs visual. They all need to be on social media and they need to create content. That's a lot of work. You know, how are you going to do this? And studios are, getting rid of full-time staff, and all of a sudden we have a lot of great artists out there. A lot of, work power that all these guys need to do work, right? So tools like AI could help. I mean, you guys could go out there and help, like you and me, like cars, right?
Yep.
Find somebody that does the stuff that you like, what you're obsessed with, and go and serve them. You don't have to necessarily work on like a huge budget movie at all, right?
Yep.
So there are all these things. The whole space has changed. You have to have yourself be out there, be on social media, establish yourself as somebody who knows what's going on and an expert, right? So there are all these things we got to do. It's very different than before.
The way
For
I
sure.
explain it to my team, for my marketing team, is especially because of the rise of ChatGPT and stuff. I'm like, when Excel was released, that didn't get rid of accountants, right? So like accountants
Yeah.
are still there. They just use that. That's a tool that helps them, and it just increases their productivity if used correctly.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
what I keep on telling my thing. I think for you, for the animation thing, I think it hits worse because it's just it's using your work to create other works. So I think that's that's the part where that like hurts more. And I think people just need to approach AI or any all of these new tools as tools, especially, and not like not fear it. I think a lot of people are just getting too scared and they're not even like trying to do it, or they're just going full on with the AI as well. Because again, I'll tell you my perspective on things. I work with like agencies. A lot of agencies are opening their AI departments so that they can just do in-house animations and they can cut costs. But again, it will never have that soul, that creative flair that only like an artist can bring to it, right? There's always something you can feel. You can feel in their animation.
Absolutely.
If it's there or not.
Yeah. Even if you're making, let's say, AI work, and I do that a lot for my social media, just to create something that day based on the thought that I had that particular day, and I want to just quickly make something and get it out there and move on, right?
Yeah.
And I use AI, but when I use AI, I go and change it somehow, make it, add it a little bit more detail or put a little specific logo here and there to make it my own. And as you said, these are the things you could do. These are just tools. An example I usually think of is a drill, right? Right now, AI is like a drill that just came out. This is the first time we're seeing a drill that we make holes on the wall. Back in the day, we used to just get the screwdriver. Don't freak out. You just have a really cool drill. It just does the thing for you. So, yeah. It's good times.
It does bring me to the point, like because I was having this conversation with one or two other people on this podcast, and something that people kept bringing up is reinventing yourself as an animator, right? So how important do you think? Because again, given the changes that's happened in the animation industries every few years or so, given that AI has been coming in, so like how important is it to like reinvent yourself as a professional animator?
It's priority, and it should happen all the time. You should always look for new tools and new ways to get things done. A lot of the a lot of times we could get kind of lazy being on the same project for a very long time, and not with just tools, with communicating and networking also. We could kind of confine ourselves to this like little tunnel thing and not be open to, I don't know, meeting other people, networking with other people, finding new tools. And that is priority. We got to do that all the time because we're artists and we have to kind of be on top of these things all the time.
All right. So I do want to like dive into specific advice that you have for freelancers because I'm assuming please correct me if I'm wrong. Majority, you would consider yourself as a freelancer, right?
Well, advice wise, usually say, when people don't ask for advice, don't give them advice.
Yeah.
So if you guys need advice on any specific thing, you feel free to hit me up directly. I'll give
Got
you
it.
advice. Yeah, but general advice is like direction to someone who's not listening.
Yeah, and so like because social media is such a strong part of being an artist these days, right? You have to put yourself out there. You have to put your work out there. As a freelancer, what do you think is like the most effective strategies to finding clients? Now, again, as you said, you can put yourself out there, but you also have to do some pull marketing, right? So you have to bring in the clients towards you as well. What do you think are
Yeah.
like the most effective strategies these days to like bring in clients?
It's been just like forever. It's been networking and learning. Keep learning and meet new people. The industry changes fast, so stay sharp and just be you.
And I do want to like jump on and again on this little bit part of the freelancing part. Like, what are some common mistakes that you see other people make in the anime, like especially newcomers, new freelancers? What are these kind of mistakes? What are the kind of mistakes that they are making that you're seeing very often?
Generalizing mistakes is kind of hard for me. If you ask me like in a specific way, whether it's their career or their art style,
When
I could be.
I'm talking more about like how they present themselves online, right? So like a lot of people just start putting all of their stuff. Do you like online? Some people curate their profiles a lot. They make sure that it's
Yes.
specific. So like what kind of things do you think people should not do? Like freelancers should not do? Should they just
Yes.
that
Okay. I have something that I really, really believe in. I think as an artist, you should have a voice. You should have a say, that you are basically communicating with people through your art. When you go and just like copy other people all the time, you are not really saying that you're alive, you're an artist, and you have a voice out there in this world. So do that, be original and be authentic and do that every single day. And sometimes when you're practicing, you're trying to learn something or, you're trying to develop a skill. It kind of like learning the piano, right? When you're learning the piano, you first learn how to play other people's songs, right? So that kind of work could sometimes stay with you. You don't need to go and put that out there unless it's at a stage of a remix. You're making a remix of it. Your take of that, right? That is totally cool, right? But your priority should be making your own songs. You're learning the piano to learn how to write your own songs and voice your feelings and your thoughts.
So, given like every animator right now is on social media, right? So it is like the competition's never been higher than today. So how do you make sure that your voice is heard? That is, I think a lot of people do find themselves like struggling for years. They put all their work
Mhm.
out there, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. Do you think this luck plays a big factor into this, or do you think like
Absolutely.
luck?
Yeah, luck is a big part of it, especially with algorithms, and it change. This algorithm thing changes every day,
Yeah,
and we're trying to learn what kind of work to put out there. Um, but overall, just get things out there. Create things.
yeah,
Don't stop and wait. Whatever it is, make it and put it out there.
yeah.
And that should be like something you do every single day.
I that's what I tell my social media team as well. I mean, I like keep it consistent no matter what happens. There will be sometimes where basically stuff will go really slow. There'll be months, periods where
Yeah.
sometimes the KPIs are too high. You're not hitting it. The algos change. You're freaking out. And then eventually you
Yeah.
keep it consistent. Algo picks up on that, and then like it
Yeah.
just hopefully brings it out there. And I think
Yeah.
it's
And
never
a lot.
been easier
Yeah.
than before. I think to even like put your stuff out there. If you just get lucky,
Absolutely.
hundreds of thousands to millions of people can just fall into your work.
Yeah. And a lot of times you do stuff for yourself,
Yeah.
And if there are people that find whatever you made interesting and connect with you, that's a win. That's what you want, right?
Yep.
So make stuff for yourself. You will find your audience. Everybody is on their social media right now,
Yeah.
just looking. There is an audience for you. There are people like you.
Absolutely.
So,
I think that's universal advice. I think no matter what industry you're in, you just have to start creating and just put yourself out there and just don't be afraid of like what people will
yep.
think. I think that's like the best thing. Okay, so one last question before I get to the final segment. Like, what
Yes, sir.
strategies do you recommend for building like a strong animation portfolio? So, like when you're presenting to clients or something, do you feel like you should have a little bit of everything, or should you like specialize in specific kind of things and then present it to
Yeah.
clients? So, what's your take on that?
That's something that I learned the hard way. As I said, I was running a small shop that I was trying to do everything. I was like, yeah, this is a one-stop shop for everything. No. Specialize in a certain way, like specialize in a market. Let's say cars. If you are doing cars, go do that, and that is the best direction you could take your work.
All right, specialization. Because I did have one or two people that I talked to. They were more like, okay, you need to be a little bit into motion. Like you should do a little bit of this, you should be a little bit of that. Show clients a lot of variety. But I think it's just with so many different types of clients, like different approaches work at different times. So I think it's just like whatever fits your goal.
I do agree with that as well, but you do different things for a certain niche, certain kind of market,
Absolutely.
right? So if you're doing a car thing,
Then
we're
you should know the
just talking
multiple
about cars,
aspects
just
of
like,
those.
yeah,
Yeah.
know how to edit car footage, know how to create 3D animations for cars, how to write scripts for cars. These are all different things,
Yeah.
they're different that you can do with AI. They're all the tools available now. So it's kind of both.
All right, Nicholas, that has been amazing. I do want to end with one thing that I've started doing since like last episode. What's the latest movie or TV show, like animated specifically, that has like captured your interest? Like, what's that?
Does House of Dragons count?
I wouldn't say
It has a lot of dragon.
It does have a lot of VFX work, but I do
Yeah.
want something like more complete, like a full animated project. Like, what's that one thing that's last thing that you saw that actually impressed you?
Fully. All the Spider-Verses.
Oh, that.
Anything Spider-Verse, and some of my friends have worked on them, and they're an inspiration. It has been for a while. It came out in 2020. First one.
The first one came in 18,
Yeah.
I believe, and then the last one came out last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So always an inspiration.
Absolutely. I think for me, especially, it was this Spider-Verse movies and Arcane, if you've ever seen it. Like Arcane
Yeah,
on Netflix, it's phenomenal.
yeah,
The amount of work that's gone into that thing is just incredible to
yeah,
see sometimes.
yeah. A lot of great talent
Absolutely.
has been working on these. Yep.
So,
Cool.
Nicholas, thank you very much for joining us for one of our first few episodes. Hope we will get to that. I will just do this outro section, if you don't mind, and then we'll just have like a debrief, post debrief on this.
Okay.
So, Nicholas, thank you for being our first guest on Prolific Perspectives. Your insight into the animation world have been super invaluable. I think all the other people who are freelancing and getting into this world also like can take your advice, and they should obviously try a little bit of mix and matching different strategies and see what works for them, because I don't think there's one universal advice that can like apply to everyone. So I tell my team members, even not even in the animation team, I tell everyone just try different things, but keep on trying. I think that's the goal, is to keep on trying and not give up at any point.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Safi, for having me be on your show. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you very much, Nami. Nicholas, please shout out any channel that you want that people can find you at.
Just Nami Pictures.
Nami
If you
Pictures.
Google it, you'll find all sorts of things.
Perfect.
NAMI Pictures.
So everyone, please do check out Nami's profile. We're gonna link his Instagram below in our YouTube description. So please feel free to check him out. And thank you very much, Nicholas. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Same here. Have a good day.